Good morning and welcome to A Life of Travel. This is going to be my semi-regular video series where, very simple, has two parts to it. First part, I'm going to give you a little bit of an update as to where I am, what I've been up to, and what's next as I continue my 18-year adventure around the world. And the second part will be to answer your questions. I'm going to take travel-related or not travel-related, any kind of questions you may have, and I'll be answering them on the video here. And last week I mentioned it on Facebook that I was going to be doing this, so a lot of you did send in some great questions that I will answer in this episode. And then towards the end I will give you a couple of ways that you can get in touch if you have some more questions, and I'll be sure to answer those in a future episode. So let's begin. I am in the town of Las Palmas right now. That's the largest town on the island of Gran Canaria, here in the Canary Islands. It's a place I never had any desire whatsoever to come to, but my girlfriend and I sort of randomly ended up here, and it's been fantastic. So we've been here for about 5 weeks so far, and really loved it, just this kind of slow travel and staying put in one place, just having the apartment and just getting into a really nice, healthy routine. It's been excellent and something I definitely think we needed. And what better place to do it than Gran Canaria? Honestly, it's a small island. You can drive around the whole thing in about 3 hours. But just in that one small space, you have everything from beaches where you can go surfing, you can go stand-up paddleboarding, snorkeling. You have rock pools along the coast. You have quaint little villages scattered all over the island. Then you have a mountainous interior where you can go hiking. There's campgrounds everywhere. You have lots of forests and national parks. There's even sand dunes on the other side of the island, just outside the town of Maspalomas. So there's so much to do on this one little island that we didn't even leave the island in the last 5 weeks, but it's been awesome, and every weekend get out there and explore a little bit. So we've been super happy here, and if you haven't thought about coming here, definitely well worth taking a look, because there is quite a lot to do and see on this one small island. So again, it's been 5 weeks, and on Wednesday I will be going. It's time to leave. So I will fly from here, just a short flight to Madrid, where I'll be visiting a friend for a night there. And on Thursday, I am off to India. Yep, it'll be about my 26th or 27th time to India. And I am going there to lead one of my Wandering Earl Wander Across India tours. So I have a great group of 10 people showing up over the weekend. And starting on November 1st, we'll explore India for 2 weeks together. So looking forward to that as always. Now, again, the second part of this video is designed to answer your questions. So I'm going to go through the questions that have been asked already on Facebook, and we'll start there. And at the end, I'll let you know again how you can send your questions to me so that I will answer them in future episodes. Okay, let's begin with Heidi. Heidi would like to know how I access funds for my travels, since I'm on the move a lot. It's a good question. Coming from the U.S. sort of depends on where you're from. From the U.S., we're a little bit lucky, as there are a couple of banks, especially the Charles Schwab Bank, that offers an account with an ATM card that basically charges zero fees when you take money out overseas, and they also reimburse you if any local banks charge you a fee as well. So I like to just use the ATM. I don't like to carry a ton of cash around with me. So I pretty much will just, since I don't have to pay any fees, I just use the ATMs wherever I am, whenever I need it, and pretty much go from there. If I can use my credit card in some countries, then I will use my credit card as well. Again, there are credit cards in the US that don't charge any international fees, and I have seen some of my European friends as well have cards without any international fees too. And then that way you get a great exchange rate. You don't have to worry about having cash. And if your credit card does earn you some miles or points for an airline, then you obviously get that bonus too. So so for me, just ATM, and just do a little bit of research and hopefully find one that does not have any fees. All right, Lauren asks, how much time did it take for your blog to start producing income? And knowing what you know now, what would you have changed to quicken that process? I think it took about 2 years, to be honest. The main reason, though, was that I wasn't looking for income from the blog. And I think that's sort of the interesting thing now, is that most of the bloggers who are doing pretty well now, at least in the travel sphere, are pretty much the same bloggers that were sort of popular in the beginning when travel blogging sort of came alive in around 2009, 2010. I think the reason is that most of those bloggers, we weren't focused on actually earning an income. So the idea was just to interact with new people, provide some useful information based on our experiences, and just kind of build as large of an audience as we possibly could, and go from there without really thinking about earning income. These days, a lot of people start their blog thinking it's just an easy way to make money, which it's absolutely not. And they wonder why they haven't started earning money after a few months, but that's because it does take, if you want to do it right, you do have to give it some time to actually build an audience that's interested in what you're doing, and then you can look at ways to sort of help them and monetize at the same time. So it does take some time to do that, and I wouldn't change anything, to be honest, just because I think that is the right way to do it, and that is definitely the most sustainable way to do it as well. All right, Colin. How you doing, Colin? Thanks for the question. Asked, Maldives or Seychelles for snorkeling, diving, and why? Seychelles. Just go. Simple as that. Paradise. Absolute paradise. Just go. You won't be disappointed. Casey asks, if constant travel is not an option, how would you suggest occasional travelers get the most out of their trips? And what resources provide the best local experience, even if you only have a week or so in a location? That's a great question, because a lot of people obviously are not able to travel long term, or don't want to. That's also, tends to be the case. But I would say the biggest thing for getting the most out of a short-term trip is to avoid trying to do it all. I think I see a lot of people that sort of have a crazy long list of things they want to do just because they feel, they're only in a destination for a week or 10 days and they need to see it all. However, if you just cut that list and just focus on a couple of things that really interest you, that really excite you, and really just spend your time doing those things, I think you're going to have a more rewarding experience overall. If you really like food, for example, then just focus on finding some great places to eat and sampling all the local food, and don't worry about going to every church, castle, and who knows what museum just because you feel like you have to. That's definitely, you don't have to. You just should do the things that interest you the most, and I think you'll have a better time. As for resources to have the best local experience, one of the best things you can do is get onto a website, say something like even Couchsurfing. I use Couchsurfing, but I don't sleep on anyone's sofas. I pretty much will use it only when I show up to a new place. I'll go onto their forums and basically ask if anyone's around, anyone has any local tips, or if anyone wants to meet up. You can say you're going to Prague, for example. You can just get on the Prague forum. Hey, I'm coming in a couple weeks. Does anyone I really want to do something different and just know where locals hang out and maybe meet some people, and I'm sure you're going to get some responses, and you can go from there. And that's a great way to just connect with locals ahead of time, and so that you don't have to spend time trying to figure out how to do that once you get to your destination. All right, Rose asks, long-term travel changes one's worldview. Also, people move on after continuous absence. It's very easy for such changes to strain existing relationships, such as in friendship and love. How can one navigate these hurdles? It's tricky, that's for sure. In terms of your friendships and relationships back home, if you do head off on the road and do some long-term traveling, I think at the end it is up to you to put in a little bit more effort to maintain those friendships. Your friends are going to kind of continue doing what they're doing, and if you're not there, it's going to be harder for them to connect with you. And I think you need to put in a little more effort. You need to call them as often as you can, send them emails whenever you can. Just make sure that you do maintain those relationships, or else, unfortunately, they can fade just because you're not there and doing something completely different. It just takes a little bit more effort. As far as all the people you meet on the road and having to say hello and then quickly say goodbye, that's a tough one. And I think each person needs to figure out, what works best for them, what the balance is. Some people, because of that reason, they don't like to meet people and then just have a great time and say goodbye 3 days later. I know some people who prefer to stay in a destination for a minimum 3 months just because they want to have that deeper connection with people. They want to have those stronger friendships and not just constantly say hello and goodbye all the time. So I think you just have to figure out what works best for you, and figure out if fast travel doesn't work because of that, maybe you should look at slower travel to help alleviate that a little bit. All right, Matt, good old Matt asking, how do you feel about olives? I hate them. That's it. I hate them. All kinds. Doesn't matter. Purple, black, brown, pink, green. I don't care. I hate all olives. All right. Paul, I want to backpack permanently. Is it viable to pick up odd jobs around the world to supplement travels on a very modest living? First, it looks like your wife commented on your replied to your comment with a question mark and an exclamation point. So you might want to discuss this with her first. But I'll stay out of that and just stick to the question. It depends. I think you need to make a strategy. You can't just show up in any country and just expect to find work. That's sort of not how it works. It's also illegal in a lot of countries to just show up and try and work, obviously without the proper visas. So I think you need to make a plan. But I do know plenty of people who have been out there for years doing this, and they just planned it as best as they could. So they figured out, okay, I can go to Australia on a working holiday visa, work there for 6 months. I can do the same thing in New Zealand. When I'm done with that, maybe I'll go to Thailand and teach English for a little bit. Maybe I'll go to Mexico and work at a resort and make some money that way. So you just have to do the research to see where you can work and what's the best option, and create a route and create a sort of general timeline. And I think if you make sort of an overall strategy, then it's definitely possible. But if you just kind of show up in countries just like that, it is difficult because, again, it's not necessarily legal in most places to just show up and just try and find some work. Tom asks, how do you handle bribes, such as at border crossings or other areas with people in positions of power? Let's see. I think in my 18 years of travel, I have, maybe given a couple of bribes. I can remember doing so in Myanmar to the immigration officials to avoid exchanging money into their tourist currency at the time. I think I remember paying a bribe at the Pakistan-Afghanistan border just because I needed to cross it and they weren't going to let me cross it without one. To be honest, yeah, it's a personal decision. If you really need to do what you need to do and that's the only way you're going to get it done, then sometimes you just have to pay the bribe. Usually it's pretty small, I've found. But obviously the bribes come from the fact that people are underpaid or not paid very much, so it's a way for them to supplement their income. Obviously, it's not the most ethical way to do it, but yeah, it's a tough one. It's a personal decision. Again, I have done it a couple times when I really needed to do something, and that was pretty much the only way that I was going to get that done. Other times you can kind of hold your ground and hope they relent at the end, but yeah, that it would just be a personal decision. But I would pay it if I really need to get something done, and that is the only way to do so. Okay, Sevgi, sorry, hope I pronounced it right. Have you been to West Papua, and any advice how to go there and what to do? I have not been there, so sorry, can't help with that one. Would love to go, but have not been there yet. Leo asks, when traveling solo, how do you go about meeting others, either locals or other travelers, so that the experience isn't so solo? Sure. To be honest, I think it's very difficult to travel completely solo these days, just because there are many ways that you can meet other people. If you're backpacking around, you can always stay at a hostel and you're going to meet a ton of other travelers very quickly. If you're not staying at a hostel, you can always look up and find a cafe or somewhere where travelers do hang out and just head over there, and all it takes is a hello to usually start up a friendship, because you have other travelers that are also looking to meet other people as well. You can join a day trip, a free walking tour, or anything like that where you know there's going to be other travelers, and again, just a hello, and that's pretty much all it takes to hopefully meet some people to spend some time with. As far as locals, I mentioned before, couchsurfing is a great way to get onto their forums and just ask if anyone's around and wants to meet up. Also, there's Facebook groups for all kinds of things, in the destinations that you're going to, and you can go on there and join those groups and just, again, ask. Just pretty much ask, is anyone around? Anyone want to show me whatever city or whatever area you're going to? And finally, there's like meetup.com. I think it was our first week here in Las Palmas. We went to a meetup that we found on meetup.com just at one of the bars down the road, and it was for people who work online that happened to be here in Las Palmas. And yeah, that was it. About 25 people showed up, and yeah, we met some great people, and a few people that became friends for the rest of our stay here. So it was a very good way to meet others with meetup.com as well. So there definitely are ways to do it. Vineet asks, what is more fascinating for you when you visit any new destination, people or place? People. Without a doubt, people. I will always say that if I was traveling just to see the sights, then I probably would have stopped a long, long time ago. It's all about the people. I mean, it's all about the fact that I'm able to meet people that I otherwise would never come across if I wasn't traveling. And that's just fascinating to me. That's where the education comes from. That's where the excitement really comes from. And that's what's kept me on the road for 18 years. So definitely the people. Okay, we have Arian asks, thanks in advance for answering our questions. My pleasure. Is there a time frame, affiliate marketing strategy, or any other insight advice for someone who wants to be able to develop a passive income travel website? There are so many. Okay, yep, that's the gist of it there. Okay. There's not one strategy, to be honest. I think what surprises people is that it takes more time and work than you imagine. So I think it is a full-time job. You need to dedicate 40 hours a week to it for a good amount of time to really do all the research, to learn as much as you can, to experiment, to make mistakes and figure out why those didn't work out, and go from there. But yeah, there really, unfortunately, isn't one set of steps that you can just follow and automatically have a successful business, because if it was like that, obviously everybody would be doing it and it would just be very easy, but it's not. It does take time and it does take work. It's not impossible at all. I always say the biggest factor is the time and the research, because it's just about learning. You just got to spend time learning. The more you learn, the better your chances of creating something successful. All right, now we have Lauren again. He asked, do you catch a lot of grief from family members for being away so much? These days I don't, mainly because I do make it back to the US, where I'm from, about 2 or 3 times per year to see family and friends. And to be honest, that's more than most of my friends who live at home see their family, even if they live pretty close by. So it's not so bad to see. And some of my family will come out and visit. Like my mom will like to come out once a year as well to somewhere to visit. So I do get to see them a decent amount. However, it wasn't that way in the beginning. When I started off with almost no money and I was traveling around, I didn't have the funds to come back too often. So there were a few years there where I was spending at least a year away without going home, and naturally they weren't too thrilled with that. But I think that's the key, is to factor in some time if it's important to you, to make sure that you do get back home. Somehow factor that into your plan if you can, and if you can't right now, then to assure them that you will as soon as you can. Okay, Zal asked here. Okay, good question. He was about to fly from Rome to Athens when somebody recommended he look for a flight from Pisa to Athens, so from a smaller town in Italy to his destination, and it was cheaper than the original option. So his question is, are there any websites that help you figure these kind of deals out? Flying from alternate airports or routes that you might not consider. I don't know of one website that does that. I am a pretty big fan these days of Kiwi.com, and the main reason for that is that you can enter as many departure cities and as many arrival cities as you want. So, for example, you could put in Rome, Florence, Bologna, Pisa as a possible departure cities, and say you're flying to Southeast Asia, you could put in Singapore, Kuala Lumpur, Penang, Bangkok, Chiang Mai, and it will show you the best combination and the cheapest combination between all those places. So that's the closest I've seen to it, but you probably do have to do a little research first just to see if there are any airports that nearby that you can fly from. A lot of flight search engines do have the little box now where you can click, choose nearby airports. And just make sure you have that always checked, and hopefully you'll find. In the last year, I've flown quite a bit. I've visited about 28 countries or so, and I will say a lot of the flights were from smaller airports as opposed to the main cities wherever I was. So it's definitely worth taking that extra 30, 45 minute, even an hour ride out to a smaller airport. Just these often can save a lot of money, especially with these low cost airlines that fly around certain parts of the world. But it is a great way to save money. Okay, that is the last question that I have here. What I'm going to do is, if you do have any kind of questions at all that you want answered in the next episode, feel free to send me an email through the blog, wanderingearl.com. You can send me a message through the Facebook page, which is just facebook.com/wanderingearl. And yeah, just get in touch with me any way you can and send me your questions, and I will answer them next time. That next episode will be in about a week or two from India, where I will be, and yeah, we'll go from there. Thank you for watching, and I hope you're all doing well, and enjoy the rest of your day. Talk to you soon. Bye.